This is Celeste, a precision platformer about anxiety. Well, not my anxiety. It's about a girl, Madeline, and her anxiety and determination to climb the Celeste mountain. Now, this game started out very simple, I would say, but towards the later levels, I was raging pretty hard. What? Why is it a pinball? Grab! Oh, God, this controller! Whoa! No! As for the platinum, we have 31 trophies, platinum included. Most trophies are for completing all of the levels, and some come from collecting items, but it was pretty straightforward platinum, and it took around 25 hours to finish it up. Overall, a satisfying game to achieve the platinum for. So step 1 will be to complete all 8 chapters while collecting all 175 strawberries, 8 cassette tapes, and 8 crystal hearts across all of the levels, as all of those are tied to trophies. So kicking off the game, we have a little intro where we meet this old lady. Shortly after that, we learn the dash ability and begin chapter 1, which is obviously going to be the easiest one. So in this chapter, you learn about the momentum mechanics with these moving platforms. We also pick up our first strawberry, which does nothing but impress your friends, which I have none of, so it's pretty useless. Obviously there's trophies, but moving on, we also come across our first cassette tape. And each chapter has a secret room which this cassette tape is in, and the rooms have a rhythm-based platforms, which can be a little tricky, but picking up our first cassette tape will give us the trophy gateway and unlock the B-side of that level. And the B-side is just a shorter, harder version of the chapter, and we'll come back to those after we beat the game. Also in this chapter, we meet Theo, a photographer who comes from the magical and faraway place of Seattle. Madeline is a little shy, but they make quick friends and part ways for now. The last thing we pick up in this chapter is the crystal heart, and these are also very hidden and contain a puzzle in order to obtain it. The puzzle in this case has to do with the screen and the way the birds are dashing. So each bird represents a color on the screen, so we have to dash the same way as the bird to input that color. So then we just follow the order on the screen. Doing it correctly will give us the crystal heart for this chapter and the trophy Pointless Machines. Now all that's left to do is complete the chapter, giving us the trophy Forsaken. In chapter 2 now, we of course have the same objectives to follow. Right away we can get the crystal heart, and I actually don't know how someone could find this on their own. I'm sure some have, but you literally have to dash and keep switching screens so that you can dash reset, and you can keep going upwards. You also have to fall into like the screen so you can dash upwards and sideways. It's a crazy mechanic, and eventually we'll reach the heart, getting the trophy Resurrections. So now continuing with the chapter, we will reach a mirror, and by inspecting it, it'll release a shadowy figure that looks similar to Madeline, but it leaves and we unlock the ability to dash through these color blocks, which allows us now to pick up all of these strawberries and cassette tape. Further in the chapter, we see the figure again, and it's actually Madeline's anxiety is probably the best way to put it. She really only describes herself as part of Madeline, and I see by the community she's called Madeline, so we're just gonna call her that. So she starts chasing us and will mimic our moves, so I'll dash and she'll kind of copy it, which I thought was a really cool mechanic. Later there'll be like 6 of them chasing you, which gets a little difficult. Eventually we escape her, only to then be eaten by her. But apparently it was a dream, sorta, and then we move through the last section of this chapter and see Theo, who is climbing the mountain with us, and we take a selfie. And call Madeline's mom, but there's no service. And the chapter ends giving us the trophy, Archaeology. Now we're moving into chapter 3. Right away we're going to pick up our 30th strawberry, giving us the trophy Strawberry Badge. Now in this chapter we meet Mr. Oshiro, and he's got like a personality disorder or something. But we help him clean up his hotel, and I think this is my least favorite chapter. I like the theme, the hotel is cool, the story with the hotel dude is cool too. But I just hate these little moving meatballs because it forces you to move a certain way or complete things in a specific order, which I didn't like very much.
What I meant to say is I'm garbage at the video game.
Alright, so we collect all of these strawberries of course, and a little bit later we're going to enter a large room with all the books and furniture lying around. And Madeline decides to help Mr. Oshiro clean it all, and we have 3 different paths that will take us to each of the types of books or furniture or whatever. So we take the green path first and notice the crystal heart in plain sight, but we'll get to it later. We clean up the green path, and next we take the purple path, clean that up, and lastly we clean up the brown path. Now cleaning these paths will open up new paths that were previously blocked by them, so we do little backtracking in the purple path to find the crystal heart, giving us the trophy Scattered and Lost. Now in this giant room with all the books, there's also a 4th path you can take, and this will lead us to our next trophy. So at the end of this path we're going to get a little letter about the hotel, whatever, but there's actually a secret room in the top section which leads to a computer or Pico 8, which I had no idea what it was, so I looked it up. And it's a virtual machine and a game engine that mimics games from the 80s, so it's pretty cool. When we interact with this thing, we enter a little mini version of Celeste where you can't wall grab and you can only dash. I would say it's way easier than the actual game, and there's even strawberries, but they actually do nothing besides impress your friends, so easy skip. It got a little challenging near the end, but I managed, and we just had to complete this version of the game to get a trophy Real Gamer. And here's the stats if you care at all about that. Alright, so the next thing we do in this chapter is pick up the cassette tape, and after picking up the cassette tape, the only thing left to do is beat the level, which leads us to Mr. Oshiro, and there's a mirror in this room which allows Madeline to come through and then lash out at him. He gets angry at us and turns into like this vampire and chases us through the rest of the level. He does an attack where he like goes across the screen at the like height you're at, but it's relatively easy as of now, so we eventually reach a ledge and he sends us to our doom. Actually, it's just a short drop, and that ends the chapter, giving us the trophy Checking Out. Now we're in chapter 4, and this chapter doesn't have any story element, but it introduces the clouds that can shoot you up if you time your jumps correctly, these little green bubbles that shoot you in the direction you're moving, and the wind that deliberately hinders your movement in a direction depending on the way the wind is blowing, of course, and these moving blocks that move when you grab them. In this chapter we see this old lady again, and she's still undermining Madeline about climbing this mountain. We pick up all the strawberries and get the trophy Strawberry Medal for picking up 80 of them. Next we pick up the cassette tape and move on to the Crystal Heart. Now this one was crazy. So in a random room there's like a white block, and if you crouch for a couple seconds you can go into the backdrop and climb up to the heart doing it that way. It's a trippy heart for sure, and getting this heart will give us the trophy Eye of the Storm. Now all we have to do is finish the chapter, and upon reaching the end we reach a lift and we see Theo, who wants to hitch a ride with us. Riding it up, Madeline begins to mess with it, causing it to stop and rock, which leads Madeline to have a panic attack. Then Theo tells her about a trick his grandpa used to teach him about focusing on a feather, and that her breathing keeps the feather floating. It's a little mini game where you gotta keep it in this box. Eventually she overcomes the panic attack and we make it to the top, ending the chapter giving us the trophy Breathe. So in chapter 5 now, we enter this cave and see a few new mechanics in the form of these red orbs, similar to the green ones, but these ones move until you dash or hit a wall. We also have the platforms that only move when you dash, which are super tricky to navigate. A bit into the chapter, we see Theo get trapped in this like mirror, so we gotta help him. But before we do that, we pick up these strawberries, the cassette tape, and make our way to the Crystal Heart, which I want to see if you can see how to get it when I go through this section. So did you see where to go? Because I sure didn't when I first went through here. You'd probably think that this bubble has something to do with it. Well, sorry to say, you'd be completely correct. We need to use this bubble to bypass the door with a lock and then take an alternate path so we don't lose our key. So eventually we can use that key to unlock the room with the crystal heart in it. And then we have a short little room to navigate until we get to the crystal heart and get the trophy Quiet and Falling. Now all we gotta do is just finish the chapter, and then we get sucked into like this mirror where we turn into a monster. I had like no clue what was happening here. But then we kill ourselves and respawn in the mirror that Theo was in, I believe. We see Madeline in here, and Madeline seems to think Madeline did this, but Madeline then tells Madeline that it wasn't her and that was a mountain that did it, but Madeline doesn't believe Madeline, so we just keep going forward, and eventually we will see these monsters again, and they are no joke. Their tracking is insane, and if you touch them, you die, except if you jump on their head like Mario. Oh. And we'll eventually reach Theo, and he's trapped in this like cage. We get him out of there, and we have to carry them to safety for the rest of the level while these monster things are trying to destroy me. Eventually, we'll come to the end and save Theo and complete the chapter, earning the trophy in the mirror. What the hell's happening here? Eyeball? Chapter 6 starts off with a wholesome talk between Madeline and Theo and how they've helped each other climb this mountain, and they take a selfie to memorize their little moment.
See this? Oh, look how big you are. Oh, this is very nice. Hey, we gotta get this framed.
Shortly after, we enter a dream with these feathers that we can like move around with as we climb to the top of this area. And at the top, Madeline and Madeline talk, and we see they try and make up here, or so Madeline thinks. But it's actually just falling on deaf ears, and Madeline starts going crazy here and sends us all the way to the bottom, and I mean literally the bottom of the mountain. So now the real chapter begins, and the new mechanics here are the cues that you need to dash into so they can move a certain direction, which I've gotten crushed by a couple times. Also the feather from before where we can fly around in any direction we want. And what I believe to be the worst thing in the game, these freaking pinballs. They aren't too bad in this level, but my main problem with them is that you have to hit them so specifically to get the movement that you need. In the later levels, it's so difficult to consistently hit them a certain way, but like I said, it's not too bad in this level. So of course there are a few things we need to do. So there are no strawberries this chapter, so we move on to the cassette tape and the crystal heart, which are pretty close to the start. So the crystal heart in this level, I literally had no idea how some people even saw this and immediately thought a solution. I still don't understand the solution fully, but someone said it has something to do with the birds way back in chapter 1. Like I said, I have no clue how these people even saw these, but inputting the right code will give us the heart and the trophy Heavy and Frail. Now we just gotta beat the chapter, and we see old Granny again, and she kinda gives Madeline the motivation to keep climbing, and explains a way to talk to Madeline so that Madeline can try and befriend her. So that's what Madeline goes to do. So now we're gonna enter a boss battle with Madeline, and it's a pretty awesome boss battle. She shoots out these orbs and beams that you have to dodge, and the platforms are falling, and it's a really fun part of the chapter with the music blasting too. Eventually we'll try and reach her enough times to where she'll give up, and they have a really wholesome chat and hug it out, which is just so wholesome. Then they decide to climb the mountain together with our newly acquired Double Dash, which is freaking awesome that they can combine and that we can sort of see them both inside Madeline. And Madeline can sometimes like reappear and like catapult you up different parts of the level, which is super cool to see her help you. But they reach Granny and Theo, concluding the chapter, giving us the trophy Reflection. Chapter 7, best chapter, not even close. It takes you over every area you've played in the game, all the chapters you've played, all the knowledge you've gained, all the music you've heard, all being displayed in this level. It's beautiful. Couple things first, we pick up the strawberries, the cassette, and we'll come back to the heart near the end. Now this chapter is just amazing. You go through these sections from previous chapters, and you really see the power of Madeline and Badeline working together. First with the double dash, and then Badeline will appear when you're at the end of a section and help you through it by catapulting you up and shooting you all the way to the next section. And they have a chat about their progress in between. It's a really cool experience seeing them finally team up. So as I mentioned, we go through all the chapters that we've been through and go through all the mechanics we've learned too. So chapter 1's got the moving platforms, and chapter 2's got the blocks that you can dash through. Chapter 3 in the chart up meatballs. Chapter 4 with the green orbs and the wind. Chapter 5 with the dash platforms and red orbs. Chapter 6 with the feathers and pinballs. All the way up to this chapter, which has its own unique section too when we get near the top at 3,000 meters. And up here at 3,000 meters, we can now reach the Crystal Heart, and for this level it involved finding secret rooms in each of the chapters and collecting all of these little gems inside of them. That will allow the heart to be unlocked, and we pick up the trophy Pink Sunrise. Now we can finish up the rest of the chapter, and it was a super fun unlocking all these checkpoints and trying to navigate the wind that's pushing you down or pushing you up. And finally, after clearing 7 chapters and hundreds of deaths, we reach the top of Celeste Mountain, giving us the trophy Celeste. And the rest of the chapter is just climbing down and eating strawberry pie with everyone we've met along the journey. I guess getting all those strawberries impressed her friends, so there you go. I thought that was the end of the game. I mean, the credits were rolling and everything, but we do have one more chapter a year after that, where we go into the mountain's core for some reason. Not really sure why, but in this level we learn all sorts of mechanics, like the blocks that push you in a direction, the floating flame balls, and the ability to switch the whole level to ice, and those flame balls turn into things that you can bounce on, and the blocks turn into platforms that you can walk on. Also in this level we pick up our last 5 strawberries, giving us the trophy Impress Your Friends. Nice. Next we pick up the cassette tape and make it all the way to the end of the chapter just to pick up the Crystal Heart for free, getting the trophy Heart of the Mountain, and ending the chapter. Now there is a chapter 9, but it's not needed for any trophies, but if you do play the game, I recommend you beat it. It's got a nice bit of extra story, and it's definitely the hardest thing in the game. I got like 5,000 deaths doing this, but for the platinum we're going to move on to our next goal. So step 2 of the platinum is to complete all of the B-sides, and like I said from the beginning of the video, these are just all 8 chapters condensed into harder levels, and we got access to these from the cassette tapes. So we're gonna obviously start from chapter 1. Now all of these levels, there really isn't much to say, because there aren't any collectibles we need or secret rooms we need to find. We just gotta beat these levels. A few of them are a bit challenging to the point of rage, but most of them are pretty easy, I would say. We'll also be getting a trophy for each level that we complete, and they only take around 15 to 20 minutes if you're well endowed. Some obviously take way longer, of course, but like I said, after beating each one of these, we'll get a trophy for each one, and we can move on to our next goal after we beat these. So those were the B-sides. Those weren't too bad, but don't misunderstand. I was raging hard on some of these. No way! What are you doing, bro? No! Holy shit, this one's hard as fuck. You piece of shit.
This one is really impossible.
This is how I feel after using Theo, this level. Cue the epic black border. Cue the epic music. It's go time. Can't grab it. I'm done. No! So those were the B-sides. Pretty rough, but nothing compared to our next goal, the C-sides. So you probably already guessed it, but the C-sides are even harder versions of the main level and way harder than the B-sides. We're also going to be getting only a single trophy after beating all 8 of them. Now C-sides are really short, consisting of only 3 to 4 rooms, but they are insanely difficult to complete due to how long some of the rooms are. They require a lot of knowledge of the mechanics in this game. So we're actually going to start pretty smoothly with this one. Chapter 1 and 2, these were pretty easy and only took around 15 minutes each. There were some hard parts, but nothing that made me rage. After finishing those out, we can start chapter 3. With this piece of Mr. Oshiro, he is so annoying. This level was so hard to me because I just couldn't time anything right, and I was raging so hard at this one. Dude, god damn it! No! Why did it not respawn? Respawn! I'm done. God, oh my god. I'm above him, dude. I'm above his stupid haircut, dude. But eventually, after 2 hours, I beat it. Yes! Suck my dick. Now, chapter 4, 5, and 6 are pretty similar to chapter 1 and 2. These only took 20 minutes each. I didn't have much trouble with any of these levels except maybe chapter 6 with the stupid pinballs. But no, these were much better than chapter 3. Now we have what I think to be the hardest level in the game, aside from chapter 9. This chapter 7 Seaside, the first few sections are not too bad, but this last section you might remember from the intro of the video was a doozy. This took like 3 hours to beat and I was getting so mad because some of the parts I would pass through the spikes just fine, but other times it would kill me. So I don't know, maybe like her bottom half has more of a hitbox. But I was getting so mad at this one because I had to play perfect, and I mean perfect to beat this one. But 3 hours later, it was done. Dude, move to the right! No! Just so fucking stupid. Whoa! No! Now we move on to the last level we need to complete, chapter 8 Seaside, and this one wasn't as bad as the last level, but boy was this last section super long.
Are you insane?
Now this one took an hour to beat, but finally after beating all of the Seasides we get the trophy, thanks for playing. The last trophy, what we need to do is collect 6 strawberries without touching the ground, and this one can be done easily in chapter 1, right at the beginning. You can still touch the ground while doing this, you just have to keep jumping so you don't actually grab them. It only took a few tries for me to do this, and picking up the 6th strawberry will give us the trophy 1-up and the platinum trophy. So there it is, the platinum trophy for Celeste. Boy was it a fun game, it had a great story, and the mechanics and platforming were so good, and the music was amazing too. This game is definitely a 9 out of 10. It was really enjoyable platinum experience, so I definitely recommend you to play it yourself, and it's free if you have PlayStation Plus. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll LCS, and I hope to see you again. Peace.